Greetings! I am Fire Lotus. Welcome to my page and/or welcome back to my page. If you can, go ahead and hit that like button, that bell button, and subscribing. For the people that may be confused, this is a Facebook Live that I will be turning into a actual YouTube video. So, excuse me. With that being said, the last, well, not the one to the last YouTube video. I said last way too many times. Anyways, last video that I uploaded, one of them, somebody asked me, how can you tell, like, the difference of, basically, how do you know you've actually made contact with the land spirit versus a trickster versus something like that. I'm also going to be looking in a really good book to also see. Hello, to see if it actually has anything in here, and I believe it does. I've just got to find it. But, in general, yeah. And I am going to be uploading this to YouTube, like I said. Now, let's see. Wandering Signs, Tokens, Divinations. Witches, Companion, Creating Witches. Let's see. Dangerous Games. Ha! Friendly Spirits, 361. This should have it in here. Hello! 361. Graveyard Dirt. Let's see. History. Line of Dead, Automatic Writing. We're not going to talk about that. Okay, so it doesn't. Or that I can find right now. Anyways, so. Working with the Land Sisters. What the hell? Welcome to the shit show. No, anyways, back. Okay. So, working with your land spirits. For one, with working with any type of spirit, and I even agree with this working with the deities, you are going to have to understand what energy is. Hello! You're going to have to understand what energy is, the different types, and how they feel. Now, this is one of the most common questions I get. Well, how do you know if you're feeling energy? It's an extremely hard and complicated question to ask because everybody's going to receive it or interpret that energy differently. A lot of the times you'll get the goosebumps or chicken skins, what some southerns call it, basically where you get goosebumps from head to toe. You get that chill that goes down your spine. Those two, of course. But with me, and I'm going to kind of use this as an example of how I know. With me, it's not like you see on a lot of, like, social media accounts where, like, for one, you don't physically see them. I see them, but when I see spirit, it's more of almost a silhouette in my mind versus me seeing them in a physical form. Now, I have seen them in a physical form before. Actually, one of the last times I did it, I was outside on my front porch, which is also about 10 to 15 feet off the ground. And I was hanging up some clothes on the clothesline, and it was, swear to God, it was just like in a movie. I went to move something that was already dry, and we have bay windows right here, which is my kind of office. But directly through that, behind me, in the corner right there, is my kitchen stove. And I went to remove that clothing, and there was a tall as fuck, I would say 6, almost 7 feet tall man standing directly in front of the stove. And I about flipped out and fell off the porch, only because I wasn't expecting it. But, in general, when it comes to land spirits, for one, they do have a personality. So, it will differ from spirit to spirit that you see, or you come in contact with. But since we're specifically talking about land spirits, this is also going to be where bioregalism also comes in, to where you need to incorporate that in your practice, and it's free. You don't have to go out and buy anything for it. Bioregalism, it's the study of your biosphere, the animals, primarily the wildlife in your area. And if you study those for an entire year, you understand, and you will get to understand. For one, you'll get in more touch with your actual land, but also it will help determine what's a sign from the divine or a spirit versus what's a normal day occurrence. For example, we have two hawks, a falcon, and an eagle that is regularly sitting on my neighbor's piers, with a group of about 5 to 7 crows, and they fight and everything. But I had somebody ask me, well, you've posted videos before about them being outside, so like, how do you know that's a sign? That's where knowing yourself and understanding how to interpret energy comes in at. Also with that is, for example, say where you live, say you have we'll say robins. You have a frequent nesting of robins on your property, aka you see redbirds and robins all the time, or cardinals for the people that's not in the South, cardinals. Okay, so say you did something and you walk outside and you see one of those. That's not really out of the normal, that's kind of normal for you, right? Versus you walking outside seeing a blue jay outside, which you normally don't see on your property. That would be an indication that that is something to dig into more. Now, working with your ancestors, or I mean working with your land spirits. For one, from what I've experienced, especially when I've given offerings and stuff like that, the nature around will change a little bit. You know, in the movies when they tell you, and in real life too, when they tell you that if you walk in an area and everything goes dead fucking quiet, something or a predator is around. The same thing kind of takes place with spirits. Specifically where I live, we do have cicadas right now. So there have been multiple times where I've given an offering and I'll depend on, or I will listen to the cicadas and how they react. If you have a huge presence of crickets or grasshoppers, this is also a great indication of that, because they, just like us, are extremely sensitive to spirits. Another thing, if you have dogs or cats on your property that are outside and not inside, they can also help you to distinguish if there are any type of entities outside. But specifically with me, and what I also encourage y'all to do as well, because it also helps me in my practice, when I first started, I was basically taught to envision a favorite color, and then when I do magic, envision that color around whatever I'm trying to do. You can also do this with spirits, as in if you can't physically see them, come up with a description of them inside your head. But specifically, it will be with nature. You may have, say you give an offering and then you have a flower come up. But again, we're also going to go back to, you have to be able to understand the feeling of those energies, because they're going to be different. Some may be very, very like a heavy presence. Some will almost be like kid-like. And you'll understand what I mean if you've ever met a spirit. They have energy just like we do. You know, versus when you are exhausted, you've overworked yourself, versus where you just got a really, really good night rest and you are ready to take on the world. It's kind of like that. Now, specifically when you start working with your spirits, or your land spirits, they're not going to be like us. They are not going to, they'll have wants and needs, but not as in a humanistic point. On top of that, they will never ask you to do something and you feel threatened, or if it puts you into a harmful situation. But also, and somebody else actually was a perfect thing to go with this, somebody stitched one of my videos when giving an offering, and this was something I did not know. There's a reason animals are associated with deities. AKA, if you were to give an offering and an animal show up that also is linked to that deity, that's a very good chance that that deity is basically saying, hey, we accept this. But again, you have to focus on your surroundings, as in everything outside. You could give an offering one day and then come back and there may be a flower, a wildflower that popped up overnight. That is a really, really good indication that they accepted that offering. Now, I don't know why this is not taught in a lot of books regarding witchcraft now, and if it is, I have not really seen it, but a lot of the ones that I read when I first started, that's what they said. They said that, like, it's a blessing if, specifically if you work with a divine feminine goddess or a divine feminine energy and you randomly have a wild rose pop up in your yard overnight. that's an indication that they have accepted that offering and they also like you. The same applies to spirits. If you randomly have, say, a flower or a species of plant that literally popped up out of nowhere, that is an indication. Also, again, bioregalism, study the animals and how they behave. That's with daytime animals and nocturnal animals as well, because these animals can also be an indication of what's going on. You literally kind of actually have to do like they did back in the old days. In the old days, how they predicted weather before like meteorology and stuff like that was actually animals. Was there dew in the morning spider web? That could specifically say something. If the cows lay down, I followed this one because it definitely works in Florida. If you go past a field of cows and they are all laying down, you will be getting rain. Very, very. You should get Earth Wisdom. Ooh, I should. Is that a book? I will definitely add that to my list. I think I've heard that because I think it's in one of the New Orleans. Wow. The why can I not talk? Llewellyn's. There we go. The Llewellyn's catalog. Also, for the people and for the YouTube, you can go to Llewellyn's.com. For one, they have spell-a-days that they post every day, but they also can have it to where they can send you a catalog every month, and each catalog is 2 months. But it's a great way to create a book list, but also to see what's about to come up. They're really good at it. Not saying I've heard issues with Llewellyn's, but anyways, I will definitely take that book, and for the people that see this on a YouTube video, my really, really good friend Kieran suggested getting Earth Wisdom, so I will definitely be adding that to my book list. But yeah, working with your land spirits. Say you have a new flower out, right? You bought a flower and put it on your property, and then all of a sudden you wake up in the middle, or you wake up the following day and it's dead. For one, that can be an indication that they may be irritated. That could also be an indication that somebody has possibly tried fucking with you magically. It's kind of one of those southern lores. I'm not going to really say it's Appalachia lore, but it's southern lore that if your plants die on your property for really no reason, that's an indication that somebody tried throwing shit your way. But there are bonuses to these land spirits as well. Now, again, if you live in the United States and in parts of Canada, you are going to have most of those, and this is where it gets confusing too, and this may be my own personal belief, but I believe that since natives were so in touch with Earth versus like us, that they are possibly, and I've always said this too, if you've checked out my paranormal videos, when it comes to native spirits and energy, there is no guidebook that we're aware of. They can do things that I've never even heard or seen, but I've experienced. But with that, they're very respectful of the land. LOL, that's a good indicator for me, because I keep plants alive to save my life. Oh, that is awesome! But, with Native Americans, you are going to have them in your area. I'm sorry if you don't like that, if that makes you feel uncomfortable, that is part of our history. But with that, you also have to show respect. Land spirits are not like deities. Deities are archetypes. However you see them, they're archetypes, which means a lot of what we know, besides the ancient history, and even then, it still comes from us. It's just like the Bible. The Bible may be the word of God, but it was written and instructed by man. So, you see what I'm saying? So, with these land spirits, respect is the number one thing. If you disrespect them, they will fucking tell you. They can also interact as in a paranormal state, as in moving things, knocking on doors and stuff like that. So what I mean, working with your land spirits, you have to be a point, not even with your craft, but you have to be a point physically and in your life to where you can interpret different types of energy. And I know a lot of people, especially in books now, don't really talk about them. Or talk about energy work. A lot of these newer books about witchcraft for beginners, they're all about jumping in, doing spell work and stuff like that. That's great and dandy, but if you're not interacting with the energy and pushing and pulling and twining, like an alchemist basically, you're taking all these correspondence energies, talking to them, working and getting them to work together to kind of dance in a tango, and then all of a sudden push it out and transform it into something new. Trying to put quartz or an amethyst in the earth next to under the plants helps them stay alive and grow better. Ooh, thank you. And again, people, I will reread that. Try putting quartz and amethyst in the ground next to the plants because it will also help them grow better. Also, southern witchy tip, I guess. It's kind of southern folklore. And I do not encourage anybody to do this, but plants grow better if they are not gifted and or stolen. So if you have an elderly woman in your neighborhood that randomly digs up plants and buries them in her garden thinking that they're hers, there's a reason they do that. Um, I was told that growing up. Multiple other people were told that growing up as well, depending on where you're at in southern states. But clarify a way of knowing that you have a land spirit. For one, if anywhere in the world there are land spirits. Um, but basically, go walk outside. If you can walk outside to where it's slightly quiet. If you live in the city, I know that may be a little bit hard, but to where you can hear and focus mostly on nature. And basically ask for a sign. Like I said before in my previous video, introduce yourself, let them know that you are a magical practitioner. I mean, you don't have to go into full detail. I do. I basically let them know, hey, these are the things that I do. I'm not really going to fuck with your property. Also with that, if you start working with them, ask your ancestors, ask your land spirits if it is okay to do this or to do that. The last thing you want to do is start working with them and then accidentally piss them off, because you can. They're not like deities. You straight up can piss them off. We actually had in one of my lives, I don't know if they're still watching or not, but we had an incident. Well, they wasn't even trying to actually commune with their land spirits, but it kind of shocked them. I'm not going to say scare them. It kind of shocked them. And that will happen. Like, there are multiple times. There was one place, the first place that I actually had my first circle that I cast that I'd worked on there. And I was doing my thing. And this was the point before I understood what land spirits were. And I shit you not, it's one of the few full-on things that I've seen, but it was a Native American, full-on Native American, and he just kind of stood there, and I was like, okay. And see, it was weird too, the part that I'm talking about, because it was a split. It was where power line poles go through the forest, and there's kind of a split. One side of the forest was extremely healthy, and the other side was dead. There's also this creepy house that kind of popped in and popped out. I'll make a video on that later. But yes, also with with garden spirits as well. But they can also, if you actually build a relationship with them, and it depends on where you're at, and it depends on that spirit. Like I've said before, where I live, due to the fact that I live around a natural spring-fed lake, I know for a fact that there's a heavy, heavy presence of native spirits here. With that, though, if you burn dragon's blood, burn something like tobacco or sweetgrass after the fact of the burning of the dragon's blood, because it is very harsh to native spirits, and you can slightly irritate them, and you don't want to do that. Because, again, if you do not know this, go look at videos of what happens when you're on native land and you have spirits interact with them, because they're on a whole new level. Now with this, please do not get it in your head that you can go outside with sage or whatever cleansing herb and just cleanse them away. That's not going to happen. They were here before you. A lot of people believe that these types of spirits are more elemental spirits, as in I call them old. I've come across multiple spirits like this, and the only reason I call them old is because that's the feeling that I get. When you walk into a library or even a historical house that's been around for hundreds of years, you can feel that presence, and you can feel that history and that knowledge with that. And once you build a healthy relationship with your spirits, for one, the one thing I have to stress not to do, is unless you can fully do this, do not try to make a deal with them, or, like a ritual of saying, hey, I will give you this offering on this date every single month throughout the year, unless you can fully do that, because you can upset them. Now you're probably asking, okay, what happens if I were to upset them? It depends on the spirit. You're not gonna they're not gonna burn your house down or anything, but they will make it a point to let you know that, it's kind of Say, for example, you just planted vegetables, right? Your garden's been going good throughout the year, And then all of a sudden things are starting to die randomly. Boom, bam. Perfect thing right there. But once you build a healthy relationship with them, you can also ask them to be a ward or guardian for your house. Perfect example of this, peacocks. You're probably asking me, what the fuck are you talking about? A lot of people that can get them actually will have peacocks because they are very, very loud as fuck. And they're almost like a guard dog. They will get to a point to where if anything shows up on that property, they're going to go freaking bananas. You can do the same thing with your land spirits. Now, with that, again, you can also, and this is another thing that is bioregional, and or biolocation. I don't know the word for it. We use geese. Ooh, I didn't think about that. No, wait. See, I'd be afraid of using geese. Geese here in America, I know that sounds weird, but geese here in America, they're little demons. But with this, though, it goes back to, say you wanted to work with the crossroads, but you don't physically have crossroads anywhere near you. Pick up that safely and respectfully. I cannot say this enough. Respectfully. Because whether you practice there or not, when you go to a crossroad, if there is a spirit there, there's a lot of magic and lore behind, and history behind these places, these sacred places, basically. And a crossroad to me is any road, whether that's a paved road or a dirt road or one of those old backcountry roads that cross 3 to 4 times. Some people would say that like 2 roads meeting could be a crossroad, but 2 to 3 times. And I believe I've made a video on this where I collected, because we have about 8 different roads from my house all the way to my mailbox, which is about 1.5 miles going in one way. And with those, there are about 6 to 7 crossroads. I respectfully collected that dirt and brought it home. You're probably asking me why. You can tap into the locations of that, and in the process also tap into the locations of working with spirits. Mention if you see any one spell or remains of one, do not touch it. Exactly. Yes. Thank you for that. If you come across a crossroad, no matter if it's 3 or 4, if you see any remains of a spell or what looks like a ritual or spell ingredients, do not fucking touch it. Leave it alone. Act like you don't even see it. I've seen so many videos of people just coming across these weird little things and opening them and destroying them. Don't. There's a reason that they are sealed and or buried. Plus, it's disrespectful. But with that, you can bring that dirt home and create that sacred space there in your own house without having to possibly put yourself in danger by going back. Also, never trespass. I cannot express that enough either. Never trespass and always be respectful. Because you're not working with a human spirit that is now a spirit. You are working with old energy. Another thing with this, and if you like this type of part, also eventually look into the Crooked Path, or what is here in America as traditional magic. Specifically the people that work with the Witch Father and the Witch Mother. They are basically an archetype of nature in itself. But again, you have to be extremely respectful, and from what I can tell, you're not just randomly going to be able to meet him or her. You kind of will be tested in a way, as in, what I'm trying to say is when it comes to land spirits and or the Witch Mother and Witch Father, they are not deities. Nothing wrong with working with deities. I work with them too. But they're not deities. These are ancient, old energy, and you got to fucking respect them because you don't want to piss one of them off. But in general, and I feel like I've just kind of been running around in circles, but in general, you need to be able to sense these spirits. Now, I think I've made a video. If not, I will make a video, and I can go ahead and tell y'all now some exercises to kind of get to start working with energy, and these are the most 2 simplest ones. Now, one of my exes showed me these, but it actually works. Again, pick a favorite color. It doesn't matter the color, just remember that color. Now, what you're going to do, this works better, and I would suggest using plants, like a tiny plant. Don't try this with an oak tree yet. But basically what you're going to do is, we're going to use this jar as the example. So say this is the plant, right? You're going to hold your hand almost like you're touching it. And then what you're going to do is imagine that color, your favorite color, lined up and kind of tracing your hand, right? The point of this exercise is to get your energetic hand to project that outward and to connect with this. The moment you connect with that plant, you will feel it. Each plant is going to be different. This is actually really cool because you can go from tiny plants to trees and then to eventually animals. And then another way, if you were interested in sight, as in like seeing auras, you can do this with plants too and animals, but I specifically try to get it with a person. Get another person to sit in front of a white wall, and yes, it has to be white or some type of off eggshell color. And you're going to stare at them, right? So you're staring at me, but what you're going to try to do is you're going to try looking past them while looking at them. The point of this exercise is you're breaking your concentration with your eyes, and once you do that, normally you'll see a very thin line about that far from the person you're looking at. And eventually, if you practice more, that line will become bigger and bigger, and it'll become different colors. Most people, though, normally see a distortion of light or like this whitish, grayish, silver color. Continue with that, and you basically just saw somebody's aura for the very first time. Also, do force your energy on it. Yes, thank you. Do not, when you're doing these energy exercises, do not force it on it. Every time or anytime you try to force your energy out, it's not going to work, and it's just going to feel weird. So be patient. These exercises will be patient. You're going to have to do it patiently. Some people will be able to do it like that. Other people, it will take more time. But do not worry. Do not get discouraged. These are just like all the other exercises I've talked about. You're going to have to do them repetitively. But you will get to a point. And in the process of doing these two exercises, you will also technically be able to find out if you have any other psychic abilities, depending on what you're doing. Another cool exercise, especially if you have kids, this is a fun one and it's safe. Get a random item, whether that is a pencil. Also, by the way, witchy tip, if you live in a state where you can play lotto, get one of these pencils, because so many people have used them, and then also, of course, cleanse it and, hand sanitize it, pandemic, everything. But a lot of people have specifically used these pencils to potentially win the lottery, and you have to think some of them possibly did win a lottery or portions of the lottery, so you can incorporate that into your practice. But get a random object and get somebody to go in a room and place that random object somewhere in that one room, right? And eventually you could do this to the entire house. And then get everybody, how many people you have, to walk in that room without actually looking like picking stuff up, to walk in the room and try to sense where it's at. It's really, really fun. It's helped me in my practice a lot. And again, color. Visualization and color. That's kind of how I've done it. And the point of this is the same reason they say you need tools. The only reason you have tools, unless you are an actual ceremonial practitioner, is to basically learn and to teach your own body a proper way of directing that energy outward. Again, I've always said this, your most magical, most powerful tool you have are your fingers, specifically your index fingers. And then that plays into, different practices are differently, but basically you have a dominant and a non-dominant hand. Also with those hands, you have a hand that will push the energy out, and then you'll have a hand that will receive that energy. But these will take, again, they're going to take repetitiveness. You're going to have to do it over and over again. What did I just drop? You can also do the exercise that I said with the plant. You can also do that with crystals as well. Avatar the Airbender, one thing, they got some good techniques for working with the elements. Yes, this is true too. Thank you for saying that as well, Karen. Avatar the Airbender, believe it or not, they have really, really good ways and techniques of working with that energy. Specifically the episode where he unlocks all of his chakras and he meets the other airbenders. Mwah, I love that episode so much. Also, side notes, and this is going to be weird in the YouTube video, but also, people on the YouTube video, let me know in the comments how you feel about this. Disney Plus, the show, The Owl House, is being canceled. From my understanding, they're doing 3 to 4 more episodes to kind of finish season 3, or to play out season 3, and then they're canceling it. We all know why. There's no other reason to cancel it except for the secret that they just revealed in the latest season, which is basically the main character basically came out as bi or gay. I don't know that. But yeah, they're canceling it. And in general, that's a really, really great show. It has nothing to do with magic, really. But it kind of does, because they introduced sigil magic. which is cool because basically different dimension, right? That we're talking about the outhouse, and then a human goes there, and the human wants to become a witch. She wants to become a practitioner, but she doesn't have magic until she figures out that she can use sigils as magic, forcing them together. But yes, in general, now these techniques will also help you with other things in your practice. For example, there was a lot of people that did not understand that you need to activate your sigils when you create them or use them. There are hundreds of different ways. You can use fire by burning them. You can use breath by blowing on them. Also, if you partake in the devil's lettuce, CBD, or Delta 8, you can also use that because in some practices, marijuana and or cannabis is known as the breath of life. So there's that. Let's see, what else is there? Also, land spirit wise, they also take that as an offering too, not just tobacco. With tobacco, unpopular opinion, a lot of people disagree with this. It does not necessarily have to be loose leaf tobacco. If you are a smoker of cigarettes, of course, if you're above the age and everything, I use normal cigarettes. Especially for my ancestor altar, I use normal cigarettes. I try to get a brand that they liked as well. But some people prefer getting an actual just bag of loose leaf tobacco. Totally can too. With that, now if you do get the bag of loose leaf tobacco, you can also make tobacco water. That's basically just steeping tobacco in water. There are magical purposes behind that, as in you can use it like Florida water, or as in giving an offering. You can actually pour some of that in a cup and give that as an offering. But you can also use it as, like, if you get stung by a wasp or something, get some of that wet tobacco and pop it on there, and it'll pull the venom out once you get the stinger out as well. Now, another thing, and I don't know if I posted the video on here, but I did make a TikTok of it. I gave an offering of wine and juice, red wine and juice, and a lot of people do not like how I give my offerings because I won't necessarily. Some people, there was a debate going on whether you're supposed to pour your offering out or just keep it there. It depends on me, but I have this little terracotta bowl thing, the things that would catch water up under a plate. I mean, a terracotta pot. I have one of those on top of a cinder block directly in front of the tree that I work with, and I poured some in there. We've been on this property, I think, 4 or 5 years now, and we've only seen yellow jackets once, and that was way at there's a random post that's down there near the actual lake. They had a nest there. But other than that, on our property, besides one flying every now and then by the window, we don't really see them here. I walk outside to leave to go to the store, and I realized that there were like 6 of them basically getting drunk. But they were eating it, basically. That's how and in my practice, that's how it works. When you give an offering and you see animals eat it, of course, safely, make sure the food's safe for them. That's also them taking that in. So it's your land spirits taking that in as well. I offer in a glass and leave it in 2 nights, and then I discard and pour or bury it in a place nearby. I do like that too. The only reason I have a glass on my altar, but I can't have it outside because it's glass, and I don't want it to break. And for the people that see this, if you have a Dollar General near your area, they are currently having, it's in the home goods section where they have all their, like, fancy shit. They are currently selling cobalt blue wine glasses that are actually that are actual glass and true cobalt blue, the blue color, the deep blue, for $1. So what did my partner do? He bought me 2 of them. So if I want to actually drink with my ancestors, whether that's coffee, wine, beer, whatever, I can fill them up a glass while I also drink from my glass. That's a perfect thing to do. Again, witchcraft does not have to be expensive. And then you also, earthenware. You actually, if you want to work with your land spirits or even with your ancestors and you want a budget way of doing it, go to Dollar General and get polymer clay. You can look up ways online. You can even use makeup to color it. But I think it's like $4 or $5 for about that much of it, right? It's a lot. Make your offering plate out of that. By the way, I also learned when I made one of my poppets, you can also add ashes from, like, say, sage or any other herbs that you burned. Add that to back that up, to add a correspondence into it. You can bake it in your oven at a very low temperature, and then You can find a sealant there as well. You can even use fingernail polish to seal it, kind of, and then put it outside. So not only did you actually physically make it, but you also just dedicated it to them. And it's a budget way of doing it, and the kids can even do it if you have kids. I don't have kids, obviously, but, you know, kids can get in there too, and it can be crafty and fun. You can also do that with if you wanted to make a hearth statue or your own spirit, your house spirit. If you wanted to make them something, do that. Also, with that, this is more a newer concept to me because it comes from chaos magic, but people have also been using pop culture pictures, famous people basically, as their deity picture. And I mean, why not, right? But your house also has a spirit. It doesn't matter if you live in an ancient house or if you live in a house that was built 2 years ago or this year. It still has a spirit. And working with your house spirit, you can also, it will be able to, literally, it can kind of notify you if things in your house is about to go wrong. It's happened with me before. And in general, brownies. Yes, in the UK they're known as brownies. We actually talked about them the other day. But yes, brownies. And also with that, a lot of people disagree with this, but if you think you have a fairy presence or fae, I hate using that word because it's such an umbrella term. Which honestly, that's kind of how I see land spirits. I see land spirits as what most people would think of fairies or fae. But if you do think you have a presence of them and you don't really know how to approach them, for one, do not offer them chocolate and do not tell them thank you, but get a leaf, get some butter and get some honey and just place it out there and say, hey, this is for you, and just walk off. You're not really going to piss them off. I know, thanks to TikTok and even YouTube, a lot of people fear working with the fae. I've never had issues working with the fae. You just have to show them respect. And like I said, don't offer them chocolate and don't say thank you. And of course, do not eat any food if they ever offer you or leave any food for you. Just don't eat that. But yeah, in general, that's how you work with spirits or land spirits. And it also goes into never thank a brownie or they leave. Oh, I did not know that one about brownies. Thank you. It also goes with, and for the people on YouTube, if you are new here, go check it out. It's labeled the Spiritual Day 30 Challenge. The Spiritual 30-Day Challenge. There we go. Basically, it's a way that I came up with to talk to your ancestors. And the reason it's competitive, and I say do it for 30 days, is because when you react or interact with spirits, whether that's land spirits, your ancestors, if you're new to it, it's going to take time to develop that perfect line of communication. Now, what I mean by that is for you to be able to interpret what they're trying to say to you, and then for them to also understand you. Now, of course, they're going to understand you because I believe in the universal language, which is basically whether it's non-human or human spirit, when you pass away, you can understand all languages. But you're going to have to repetitively do it. And the more that you do this, on top of it building confidence in yourself and in your own abilities, so much, they can offer so much help. It's not even funny. And a lot of people are sitting on it. A lot of people think that, to be a witch, you automatically have to work with the deity. You don't. And working with your land spirits, you can also find and also discover how powerful the land that you live on in itself is. The dirt up under your feet is more powerful than most crystals you can buy in a store. You just have to know how to use it. So, but yeah, that's going to be the live today. And like I said, I'm hopefully going to make one more other YouTube video, but I was like, why not go live, also do my normal routine, and then also download this and upload it to YouTube. So, yes, that's going to be that. Now, after this, I am going to go live one more time, but it will not be recorded for YouTube because I need to talk about something and kind of update on something that I talked about yesterday. So, yeah, until then, for everybody who has watched this so far, thank you so much. And like I said, leave your comments below, for one, if you'd like me to make a specific video. And then, do you work with your land spirits? If so, how? How's it going? And yeah, until then, thank you so much for watching this. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, that like button, and possibly share it and send it to somebody. And yeah, in general, I will see y'all later. Peace.